The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
Ohio State overpowered Penn State to secure a 20-13 win.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's one thing that we've been talking about for a long period of time is the defense. We know what we think the defense should be able to be down the road. We think the defense with the players, when they all play their best, what we think they can be. Well, what we got today is a glimpse into that. Even with Tyleik Williams going down late in the game, we got a goal line stand with some guys off the bench, and Hero Canoe and Cade McDonald making big plays, along with Lathan Ranch, Cody Simon, and Caleb Downs as well. Like, everybody got into the mix on the final defensive play of the game for the Buckeyes. But even on offense, being able to grind out, starting on the one, literally your back's up against the wall, and you grind out on the ground and just move, tick, 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 churn the thing. Keep going and keep going. And this is a great sign. Oh, did I add that Ohio State had a first-time starting left guard this year in its Buckeye career in Carson Hinzman? Yeah, we all knew that Mikulski was probably not going to play. He didn't play. You moved Donovan Jackson from left guard to left tackle. You have a new starter in Carson Hinzman who has barely played this year after starting 12 games at center a year ago. And what does he do? He makes that left side of the offensive line be somewhat of a strength for the Buckeyes down later in the game, where they can run behind them. They're moving guys, they're pushing guys, even getting Donovan Jackson after the game. Late in the fourth quarter on that final offensive drive, where he's kind of hyped up and he's shaking his head like, yeah, as he should as an offensive lineman, because there were issues earlier. There were even issues in the second half, but Ohio State being able to overpower Penn State, that was not something we thought we would see right now. That's a huge step in the right direction. It's a long season. The Buckeyes have a few more games left. They still have a shot to go to Indianapolis to play in the Big Ten championship game. But this is where you got to be. If Ohio State lost this game, their chances of being able to having a chance to play in the Big Ten championship, they're basically out the window. 10-2 for the first time in Ryan Day's career, potentially. Not even saying that, but having two regular season losses, that's not where you want to be. You have guys like Will Howard. You have guys like Caleb Downs that transferred in, Seth McLaughlin. What do? They transferred to win. Yeah, you may have a loss here or there, but that doesn't mean you can't win. They also transferred to win on the big stage. It was a record attendance in Beaver Stadium today. Over 111,000 people that were cheering loud. It wasn't the whiteout. They did the whole helmet stripe thing that I saw on Twitter, where it was white all the way around, and they had the helmet stripe right down the center on both sides of the field. At the 50-yard line, cool. I mean, like, I get what you're trying to do. You could have just had a daytime whiteout. Like, I would have been cool with that. I'm also cool with what we're seeing from Ohio State right now. And Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, they're making tweaks. They're adjusting things. And they're making sure that everything Ohio State needs to do in this game to win, they're doing. Now, yeah, you're gonna have a bigger test. I say bigger. Indiana's good. It may be a better team than Penn State when Ohio State meets Indiana down the road. You're gonna have to keep making these kinds of adjustments. You're gonna have Michigan, who's currently playing right now while we're recording. I don't even know if there's a score in the game yet, but I do know this: Michigan has a psychological advantage. I don't think they have a talent advantage. I don't even want to say they have a physicality advantage. There's a psychological advantage. But the way to overcome that psychological advantage is doing things right now like we got today. Will Howard making plays. Yeah, he had a bad throw. We're going to talk about that later in the show, a bad throw early on, which resulted in a pick six. But he didn't let that get him down. He didn't let that mess him up. Saw the run game get back to where you want it to be. By the numbers, I haven't really looked at these lately. Quinshon Judkins, 14 for 95, average 6.8 yards a pop. Henderson, who did not start this game for the first time all year, 10 carries, 54 yards, 5.4 yards a pop. You saw Will Howard have over 10 rushing attempts for the first time this year. Also had a couple carries from Emeka Ibuka. So they're trying different things out, doing a little bit of different things. Also, Will Howard had less than 200 passing yards, and I'm not complaining. Like, I don't care if he has 182 or if he has 382. I don't care. All I want is a win. And the formula that Ohio State went in there with, offensively, with the mindset, figure out what works on the ground, and then make that thing shake defensively, they didn't give up a touchdown. Yeah, I know I know what you see, and it's 20-13. That one score that Penn State had, that was within the first. That was at the 5:37 mark of the first quarter. Outside of that, Penn State had a field goal, a 29-yard field goal at the 6:54 mark of the first quarter. Then they had another field goal at the 5:03 mark of the third quarter. Outside of that, Ohio State's defense didn't give up a touchdown. And now, if you were to talk to me and ask me a question early in the week or even the day of the game, morning of the game, and you were asking me, would I expect Ohio State's defense to shut out the Penn State's offense? I would have said no. I would have assumed either Tyler Warren, who got really close, or Drew Aller or Bo Perbula. Those are the three guys I'd be looking at to saying, I think one of these guys will score. I would have said if it were Aller scoring, it would have been through the air to Warren. If it was Bo Perbula scoring, it would have been with his legs. And if for Tyler Warren scoring, you saw how they used him today. So it would have been either a run or a pass. I probably would not have picked which one, but I would have guessed that one of those three guys would have scored. They didn't. So we're finding Ohio State's defense rising to the occasion, being able to literally overpower Penn State's offensive line. And we know in every game, we talk about it, Urban Meyer's probably the biggest guy that's going to thump every single day. When you win big games, what do you have to do? You have to win the battle on the ground. If you don't win the battle in the trenches, you're not going to win the game. You may win the game, but it's going to be very, very hard. What we found today was Ohio State's defense. My gosh. As much as we heard about Kaytron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, and we know how good they are, buddy, they couldn't make anything shake. Kaytron Allen had 27 rushing yards on 12 carries. Nick Singleton, 6 rushes for 15 carries. The leading rusher for Penn State was their tight end. 3 attempts, 47 yards, 15.7 yards a pop. That was one run of 33 yards that got him down to the 3-yard line in the fourth quarter, which resulted in an Ohio State goal line stand, the one we'll be talking about for a very, very, very long time. Their second leading rusher was Drew Aller on a bad knee. So, yeah, Penn State had 120 rushing yards. They still didn't average over 4 yards a carry. They didn't have more rushing yards than Ohio State. And these are things that just show and confirm that Ohio State's defense did some great things on the road. And if they build upon those great things they did today in Happy Valley, we're going to be talking about this defense tomorrow, the next day, over the next few weeks, leading into that game against Indiana, leading into that game against Michigan, and have a lot more confidence about what the defense might do in those bigger games against teams that, well, one team will be ranked. Michigan won't be ranked, but Michigan has a psychological advantage, and we'll have a bigger belief to say, I think Ohio State's going to win this game behind their defense, and here is why. We'll have more data to kind of back that up.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Domination in Williams-Brice Stadium, where dreams go to die for top 10 teams in the month of November. You heard it all week. This team, I am so fired up. What a damn win. We are here live reaction show. My God. Finally got the statement win. I want to hear all of your comments and your takeaways from the game, your thoughts going into it, thoughts after that. What a win. What a win. And again, 44-20. The game just went final about 5-10 minutes ago. The celebration of Williams-Brice obviously is not going to stop anytime soon. The celebration in Columbia, in the Vista, in 5 Points, all the above, that's not going to stop anytime soon. And here's the thing. We deserve to. What a damn night for Shane Beamer and for South Carolina and for Dowell Loggins and Lenore Sellers. When people like me have said, and they doubted Dowell Loggins, especially Dowell Loggins, all year. I was worried about this game because I kept looking at it and thinking, man, there's such a clear path for South Carolina to win this game. Just a clear path. Like, they're a good enough team to beat them. You've seen it multiple times this season. And the thing I kept going back to was like, oh man, can Lenoris like be protected long enough by that offensive line? Can Lenoris also not make any sort of like backbreaking mistakes or bad moments with the lacking of situational awareness? I said this a couple of weeks ago, man. I said this a couple of weeks ago after the Bama game, but we were watching that kid turn a corner and grow up like in front of us. Here's the thing. The first 6 games of a starter, right? Like of his like starting career, he had some ups and downs and he had to learn and go through growing pains, and he made some bad mistakes. Did you see Lenore Sellers in the pocket tonight? Like stepping up in the pocket, evading the rush, avoiding tackles. Like, my God, like no sacks allowed. What? What? Like, it was so fun. And here's the thing that was the best part. Here's the thing that's the best part. And listen, we're going to get into the full game. I'm so fired up. There is not going to be any line of symmetry and like organization to this show. This is just a live reaction. I'm fired up. And the game just ended. And it is just going to be off the cuff and from the hip. And it is, I've said this over and over. I said it during the Oklahoma game. I said the next step, the next iteration for this program and for this team and coaching staff and the players, like, and everyone involved with South Carolina football in the year of 2024, the next step was when you get up on someone, you have to figure out a way to keep them down. I say it all the time. People think it's way too aggressive, but you put your foot on someone's throat and you don't let up. You push down, choke them out and win the game. And South Carolina has not had that kind of killer instinct at times under Shane Beamer. You've seen it rear its ugly head multiple times here. Man, South Carolina went up 14-0, then it was like 17-6, and next thing you know, it's 20-17. Final score 44-20. They buried A&M, buried them. I mean, oh my God, just what a game! Because here's the thing: this is my favorite part of looking at this now is like all these A&M fans already. Well, I just knew A&M was going to pull an A&M. This is what they always do. Here's the thing: you got your ass kicked. You went into Williams-Brice with a ton of confidence. The entire country patting you on the back and telling you how great you are. For a full week. And you know why they did? Let's just get all the cards on the table. Do you know why they did that? They did that because you were on a nationally televised game against LSU, who's a top 10 team and a national brand. And you had a huge come-from-behind victory. Well, you had that win because LSU gave you the ball 3 times in the second half inside of like their own 20 or 30-yard line. That's why they handed it to you on a silver platter. It was gift wrap for you. And then you walked into Williams-Brice Stadium. SEC Mike. I'm sure he did. Listen, Hunter, it took me a second to read this. Hunter Britton says SEC Mike put A&M at number 3 in his power rankings. It took me a second to read that because I didn't know I genuinely didn't know if you meant right now. So back to the game. A&M, you came in with so much confidence because you beat an LSU team that, as South Carolina knows, is very beatable. Very beatable. This team comes in, and all the things that we were genuinely and validated in with our concerns, but genuinely concerned about. Man, let's get into the numbers. It was a mauling. It was a mauling, folks. Here's the final stat line. Okay, we're just going to start with the team stats. 530 yards of offense. 530 yards of offense. 44 points. 286 yards rushing. I'll say that again. 286 yards rushing against a team who came into this game, drum roll please, with, I think it was they came into this game with one of the best defensive fronts and one of the best front fours in the country. They held LSU to 0 yards rushing on 12 carries in the second half of that game. And Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins went into the bye week and said, here's how we're going to attack A&M. Here's what we're going to do. And I said this after they beat Oklahoma. I said, like, there's a path to the playoff. We don't need to get to the playoff thing right now. But can they win out? Yes. Let's just keep at it. Let's just keep putting more cherries on top, guys. Clemson lost. like we've been sitting here, like, and we're I think so conditioned as South Carolina fans to be like, oh man, it's just waiting for the shoe to drop, just waiting for the trauma to start coming around like it always does, waiting for the shoe to drop. Clemson and A&M were the two hardest teams on the rest of this schedule. Vandy's pretty good, but the two best teams left in the schedule. And you look at the fact that Clemson just lost off a bye week. It's the first time in 15 years that Dabo has lost on a bye week, and they were at home to Louisville. I mean, everything that this team just did, that is a complete team win. You didn't have a sack until the fourth quarter. You get 2 in a row. In a situation where A&M was like driving, has to be in 4-down territory, and you get a sack on 2nd and 6, you get a sack on 3rd and 12, and boom, they got a punt. I mean, dude, you cannot say enough about how good of a job Shane Beamer and everybody inside those 4 walls and on that practice field, how good of a job they did for 2 weeks for prepping for the game plan that went in specifically to this. And by the way, I hope that everyone now outside of Columbia, South Carolina realizes this is a damn good football team. They got 3 losses, sure. This team tonight, like I keep saying this, you are watching them grow up in front of your own eyes in real time. You're watching them grow in real time. So there's growing pains, of course, at the start of the season. But my God, like you want to have a program defining, a program changing, like a trajectory changing win. It's that one. It's not the Tennessee one from a couple years ago. It's that one. I mean, I tweeted this out when it was like, I think it was 27-20. And I just said, now go take their will. Like, now go take their will. And they did. Like that part was so new to South Carolina. Guys, they came out, they were running over people. They made them quit. They made Texas A&M quit. That's a very proud, a very physical, and a very good defense. They were running through them at the end of the game. Oh my God. Guys, 3 penalties for 25 yards. You won the turnover battle. 0 sacks allowed. I mean, I would love to know how many negative plays that we had tonight. It couldn't have been more than 5. Like, it. Oh my God. Yeah, that is a down point there, Tim Norris. That sucks. I didn't like that at all. Man. All right, let's get y'all's thoughts on this, because I am so fired up. It's been a long day. It's the girlfriend's birthday. We had a fantastic afternoon and obviously a great night here. Let me gather myself for a second. We'll read some of y'all's comments, and then we'll get into some of how the game played out, because there's some good stuff. They're showing right now on SC Network, and I mean, the play design again from Dowell Loggins. Listen, maybe Dowell Loggins, like, I will already tell you right now I was wrong about what I said because I was pissed at the Ole Miss game. Maybe Dowell Loggins and Clayton White are the same person and same trajectory professionally, just at different times of being hired. I mean, like, people wanted Clayton White gone, even at times like heading into this offseason. It's one of the best defenses in the country and has been one of the best and most opportunistic defenses in the SEC since he's been there. Love Clayton White. Like, Dowell Loggins, I mean, maybe that Ole Miss thing was a huge wake-up call. I don't know. But you have started to see over the last several games the play design that he is coming up with, especially in key moments, is really, really impressive. I mean, like, that second touchdown tonight to Simmons or Simon, I mean, that was, oh my God. Whew, are the goalposts still up? Too big. Let's talk about that. D-Fresh 843 says 2 big fourth down stops. Split that man in half coming in the hole. Split that running back in half. Like 4th and 1, they ran right up the gut. Listen, there's a quote, and I didn't bring this up this week because I was worried that it was going to come back to bite us. There was a quote from the left tackle of A&M last week going to LSU, and he made a comment about how he's like, they think that, they're going to be able to come and stop us, and they're going to be able to, we're not going to be able to run the ball, which we are, and we're going to run down their throats. And they did against LSU. This isn't LSU. Okay? It's also not Kyle Field. Like, you had to put on your big boy pants to go play somebody today. And you saw, like, from just every single player, like, if Nick Harbor wasn't getting held like a damn newborn baby all night like at the top of his routes, it might have been even better. And he might have been more involved. But how about this from an underrated point and celebrate from the coaching staff? How about Nick Harbor, who could be a future Olympic track star? How about getting him so bought into this program that you had him blocking his ass off tonight? Like, Debo shut the inside run down all night. Like, all night. Oh, my God. Just a complete – Eamon Warrior, I told you he's going to come down and play in the box. Incredible. Just so fundamentally sound all night. You took the right angles. You didn't miss tackles. And then you saw A&M do all of the things that have plagued this South Carolina team that we've been so frustrated about. The bad snaps, the bad plays in the pocket, the lack of situational awareness, the missed tackles, arm tackles, bad turnovers. Like, that happened to someone else for a change. Oh, my God. Cox probably should have. Okay, well, Lenore's played fearless and confident. Even though he didn't hit a couple throws, he kept the defense on their heels. Exactly, Tony. Exactly. How about this for fun? How about the fact that Lenore Sellers and Dowell Loggins on the first play of the game dialed up a play-action deep ball? How about Rocket Sanders? Like, guys, let's be objective and fair here. That dude was not himself, I think, at the start of the year, including LSU. I know he had a long touchdown or 2 long touchdown runs against LSU. I didn't think he looked like himself. That speed, his ability to get to the corner at that size, especially. I mean, dude, it was like listening. It was like listening to Connor Shaw, Marcus Lattimore games during the Steve Spurrier days. I'm hoping this will be the right dude. It's just the offensive line grew up. The defense. I mean, I don't even know what the bet. Like, there's so many amazing things that happened in that game. So many, like, really, like, foundational strengths that you saw, like, that are starting to be repeatable things from this team and with Shane Beamer. I was so worried that this was going to be a repeat of Ole Miss, man. I was so worried there was going to be something, and I just kept thinking, like, just don't let. I said it on radio multiple times. I was like, please don't let these fans down. Just like, I just don't. I'm so tired of having to see disappointment. I've only been doing this job for 4 months. I mean, I've lived in Columbia for a long time, and oh my God, And for a brief moment, we all held our collective breath, and they went down 20-17. And they outscored them 27-0 to close the game. Man, that was just what a damn game. What a damn game. Thank you for joining us. If you I should have done all this at the top. We're obviously 15 minutes in. It's a live show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to Locked On. We had our best month ever last month again, which is like, just can't say thank you guys enough. This has been so much fun to like talk about the hometown team and cover this team, especially this year. And now we get basketball, so it's only going to get better. And now this team is rolling. And I tell you what, man, it's really special to watch all this unfold. It really is special because listen, there's times when you're watching a program turn or change or whatever, and it's really special to see the baby steps that a program makes and a head coach makes, and learning and all that stuff you have to go through. And man, it's so cool that you're now in a situation. Think about this, guys. You're in a situation now that you had like the LSU game and the Bama game. You could have in a similar but parallel universe, you could have been in a situation where at the end of the year, you might have thought to yourself, if we just would have won that, we would have gone to a bowl game. That's what people thought about this team going into the season. That's what the national media thought of this team. Oh yeah, probably 4 wins tops, 5 wins maybe. That's the ceiling. And at the end of this year, no matter what happens, like, you are going to actually look at somebody with a serious face and say, if it wasn't for those refs in that LSU game, this might have been a playoff team.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. And that winning $5 bet could be Monday Night Football, maybe. The Kansas City Chiefs, big favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight. FanDuel likes the Chiefs by 9.5. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Should be a great environment from Jones Stadium as the Red Raiders prepare to host the Buffaloes of Colorado. And by virtue of your big win on Saturday over Iowa State, obviously we know some things are now in place as it relates to a bowl game, as you punch your ticket and you get eligible there. But wanted to pick your brain a little bit today about what still will be a rocky path to this, but possibly some opportunities restored to make things a little bit more interesting as far as the conference race is concerned. You obviously knock one team from the category of unbeatens in Iowa State, still one remaining in BYU. But am I dreaming a little bit too big of a dream to think that there is a thing or two back on the table that makes it a little more interesting in the Big 12 Conference? What do you think about that part of the conversation, as you hadn't tapped out just yet going into the weekend, but man, a lot of things are going to have to happen and still do. But maybe there's a little bit more of a likelihood, depending upon what happens this week with the Buffaloes and some things beyond that. I don't know. Texas Tech could actually get back into that interesting November that we were clamoring for, right?
Yeah, and you say turn the page and all that. I'd kind of like to just read this book again from last weekend. It's because I will be honest with you, I've watched the Seinfeld hot tub episode about 1,000,000 times when Elaine, invented the Himalayan walking shoe, and Kramer, he like did the mental clock, and the marathon runner was late, and all that stuff. I mean, I can't get enough. So I'd replay the Iowa State loss, or the, I guess for them, but in the Texas Tech win over and over again if we could. But what it did, Cowan, though, because of that, and I think because of Houston pulling off quite the upset, it does make this weekend's game relevant in the conference race. And this is why I said to you way back when we started this little stretch here, it was all about this 3-game stretch, and there were some back-to-back road trips there. There was this home game versus Baylor you had. And it's like, okay, if you win 2 of 3, you've really put yourself up. But the one that is going to move the needle the most is the Iowa State game, because of where they are in the standings, where they are in the rankings, and all that stuff. Because you can't get to where you ultimately want to go unless some other teams, come back to the pack, or you beat them head-to-head and have the tiebreaker and all that stuff. And then lo and behold, you lose the 2 that on paper would have been the easier ones, or the ones to manage. You go pull off the hardest one. As my man Cowan would say, typical Tech, right?
The sunny side of typical Tech. Yeah.
That.
We like this side.
Because you get this done in Ames, you set yourself up for a relevant game. Now, and I would say not quite the same, but it's pretty close in that if you want to get to where you want to go and have a shot at Arlington, like a win over Colorado, because we're talking head-to-head victories and we're talking tiebreakers, and we're also talking about gives them another loss because they are ahead of you in the standings, that this is what I say they're ahead in the standings. Actually, I think that, they've got you've got one more conference loss than they do, so you need to give them their second.
Yeah, I probably should have said this already, but just for those who are not looking at a standing sheet, BYU 5-0, Iowa State, Colorado both 4-1, and then Tech and K-State both 4-2 as far as league play goes.
Yeah, so you need BYU. I mean, if BYU wins another game or two, like they may kind of put one spot out of reach. And everybody may be playing for the second spot for a trip to Arlington. But my point is, you now have a game that is sold out. It's been sold out because of all the your excitement about your program, about the curiosity about Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and all of the Buffs have got going on. Well, they're better than everybody would have thought. You because of your win in Ames now created a situation where this game is very meaningful, and because like a result like Kansas State going to Houston, and I know we want to always crown Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson, and everybody wants to crown them, and like Dennis Green's like, you want to crown their ass, crown them, but that whole deal, but yeah. Maybe get the sizing on the crown fit for some other folks too, because Kansas State, this was a bad loss.
Oh, that was a bizarre loss, man. I mean,
and you knew Willie Fritz in Houston. Willie Fritz is a really good coach, and they were going to play spoiler. You look up now; they're 4-5.
I know. Are they figuring something out?
Well, and they could do this to some other folks down the stretch too. My point is that if you get it done this weekend, don't just act like you're going to need just too much help from elsewhere, because this thing's getting wild every week. But you need to use the previous 2 weeks prior to the Iowa State game as motivation and get some things figured out and see if you can't. You got to manage a bye week situation, and you got to manage maybe trying to cover one of the best wideouts in the country and one of the best quarterbacks in the country throwing to him that can just extend a play for 25 seconds. So that'll be fun over the weekend. So if you have any hair, you may pull it all. I'll pull some of it out this weekend trying to defend these guys.
There'll be some of that, I have no doubt.
It's just, that's just what they are.
Yeah.
And it's going to be frustrating. So, but it's meaningful, and that's what. Not that you got here in the way that we wanted necessarily, but again, we kind of talked about that. You want to play meaningful games in November. Well, here you are.
Don't you
are
mean
not.
Jovember? We're back to Jovember. The spirit of Jovember is alive.
I love it. I love it.
It's like nobody was even believing in old St. Joe and Jovember just a week or two ago. But here we are. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because who knows what's to come in the Big 12 Conference. And BYU, who's in the Catbird seat right now, has a rivalry game coming up this weekend with the Utes, who have been obviously disappointing. But I don't know. You throw some things out as far as a game like that is concerned, you might. And I still think it's really interesting to look at the other two not named Colorado that are most interesting, that being Iowa State and K-State. They've still got to crack at one another, obviously, at the end of the season. But
which guarantees somebody in that little duo gets their third loss.
Somebody's going to take something. So, and it's not like, and we talked about this with Iowa State going into the week. If they were to get past Texas Tech, I mean, it's not a gauntlet of Big 12 opponents they have left to run, with all due respect to K-State at the very end. But you got Kansas on the road, Utah on the road. Iowa State will get Cincinnati and Ames between those two road contests before they host the Purple Wildcats for the Farmageddon matchup. But some interesting things could happen. But really, I mean, Texas Tech to continue to make November interesting, Chris, obviously you got to be able to find a way to pull off what would be a slight upset at home. I think I saw the Red Raiders on FanDuel opening up. It's about a 3.5-point underdog as Colorado comes to town. But you've gotten here and have restored some interest to the month via this huge win on the road over the Cyclones of Iowa State.